This video will be a description on how to analyze questionnaire or survey data. Questionnaire or surveys are designed to obtain an opinion or a response on a specific question. The data collected from a survey or questionnaire in which the response for each participant can be recorded based on Likert scale, and Likert scales could be 4 point, 3 point, 5 point, up to 11 point, and the 5-point Likert scale is based on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 for strongly disagree and 5 for strongly agree. Another scale that can be used in a questionnaire or a survey is a scale based on continuous data. When designing the scale or the questionnaire or the instrument, the data collected could be on a continuous scale. The data could also be collected on a nominal scale. A nominal scale could have on it agree, disagree, yes or no. If you find this video useful, do subscribe to the channel, leave any comment in the indicated box, and activate the notification bell to receive the recent and latest release into the channel of several different video clips, and click on the like icon and share the video link with others so the channel can expand and improve to include a large scope of different statistical method and how to analyze data using several different statistical packages such as SPSS, Excel, Stata, Jamovi, R-Statistic or Statistics, GraphPad, Prism, GPower, Python, and Mann. So the data collected from an instrument or a scale or a questionnaire basically consists of two major parts. The first part is a demographic data, a data collected from the participant regarding their gender, what kind of occupation they are performing, what education level they have, years of experiences in a certain job, how many members of their family, and other data. So the first section is a demographic data related to the participant details. The second part is the questions part or the items part. It is the response. This is the data or score collected from the participant selecting from an ordinal scale such as the 5-point Likert scale, from 1 to 4 strongly disagree and 5 for strongly agree. The response in the questionnaire could have a format of a continuous scale, or it could have a nominal scale, in this case dichotomous, such as yes or no. So the data collected can be split into two major classes or categories: demographic data and the core or the essence or the foundation of the questionnaire, which is the items or the questions. These questions intend to obtain an opinion or a response from those participants. From those items, a third section or part can be obtained, which is the outcome, which is again could be one item or items, can be a single item or a multiple items. So the outcome is the dependent variable that is measured in the survey. Variable examples are given here, such as the stress level, the burnout, the customer satisfaction, the intelligence, the service quality, and the income, and so on. So the major part of the questionnaire is the demographic data, the items, and the outcomes. So how can I determine what is an outcome and what is the independent variables? So in the survey, the aims has to be clear. So the independent variable can be identified. These independent variable can be several or multiple items or questions. They sometimes called exploratory or predictors. And also from the aims, it will be essential to determine the dependent variable, which is the outcome, and that can also be called the response. So it is very important to have a clear objective or aims from performing or distributing the questionnaire and then collecting the data. So the data collected can be sectioned into a outcome and an independent variable based on the objective or the aims of the survey designed to collect the opinions. So what are the methods or steps that to follow to perform the analysis for a data from a questionnaire? First step is to clean the data and prepare the data by removing any duplicate in the data, any incomplete data, any missing data, replacing missing data with the mean or the median, depend on the data type, whether it is an ordinal data in which there is an order in it. Ordinal data is categorical. In this case, you could use the mode or the median for a replacement value for or values for missing data. Or the data can be continuous, such as interval or a ratio, and it can be replaced the missing values by a mean for that item or variable. So the main objective from data clean is to remove any mistyping, any error, any mislabeling, any misdesigning of the type of the data used. All the errors has to be removed and the data be ready for analysis and description. The second step to take is if there are categorical data such as nominal data or ordinal data, then a value or a score or a number is assigned for each category, such as the ordinal data, such as 5 Likert scale, in which 1 will represent strongly disagree and 5 strongly agree. For nominal data, whether it is binomial or binary, in which the categories can be assigned 1 or 2, 1 for example yes, and 2 for no. And similar things also for multinomial, when there are multiple categories for a variable that is categorical, then a number can be assigned for each category, such as occupation. A person could be a doctor, dentist, scientist, a pharmacist, and so on. So it is also trivial to assign values for categorical data. The third step for data preparation is to code the Likert scale, in which to give the categorical data such as strongly agree, strongly disagree, agree, disagree, or neither agree a value. And if the scale is in opposite direction, then it has to be reversed coding. Also for data preparation, construct can be defined and items assigned for specific construct or specific section within the instrument or the scale, and if possible also generate a composite. A composite is to combine multiple variable or items responses into single variable by either taking the average or adding them together, adding the values in each variable to finally produce a single variable. So this is the step to take for preparing data for survey analysis methods. An essential step also to perform when doing the survey analysis is to perform factor analysis. The factor analysis is a statistical method that aims to discover underlying factors by performing factor analysis to identify latent construct or factors that explains correlation between items. There are three major factor analysis. The first one is principal component analysis. This is a reduction technique, statistical technique. Second one is exploratory factor analysis. This is a statistical method that is used to discover or identify latent factors. And a third important one, which is a confirmatory factor analysis. Another method that can be used is the cluster analysis. Cluster analysis is data grouping. Use cluster analysis to group similar responses. So those are the options, some of the options available to analyze or method for analyzing the survey or a questionnaire. Then description of the data follow by calculating the frequency for each variable, by calculating the frequency for responses from each item, calculating the frequency for each demographic factors for the gender, the education, the occupation, and so on, splitting the outcome, which is the dependent variable, by the demographic factors, and then perform descriptive analysis. The next step is to generate a summary for statistics by calculating the measures. Then a mean can be calculated, the median, the mode, the standard deviation, the range, the interquartile, first quartile, interquartile, the third interquartile, and so on. Additional way also to analyze the data is to visualize your data via graph or graphs and chart, creating a visual representation for the data or sections of the data using a bar chart, pie chart, histograms, stack or stacked chart, scatter plot, and line chart. Pie chart can be used for data that represent ethnicity. Bar chart could be used for data that represent demographic factors, and so on. Once the factor analysis has been performed, the items has been checked for correlation, has been sorted or grouped into factors or components or clusters, then a cross-tabulation analysis can be performed, in which variables are crossed into tables to analyze the relationship between categorical variable, and in this case the chi-square test can be performed to determine whether there is a relationship between categorical variable. Now, another test that can be used, which is the correlation analysis, that will examine the relationship between continuous or ordinal variable. An example for that is the Pearson correlation coefficient. When the data or the two variables are continuous, then Pearson correlation coefficient is the one to go for. When the data are not normally distributed, or or the data are ordinal, then the Spearman's correlation coefficient can be performed. Regression analysis can be also considered to examine the effect or the impact of the independent variable or the predictor on the dependent variable, which is the outcome. Here, the linear regression can be used. Second type of regression is binomial. When the outcome is categorical, two categories in it, then binomial regression can be performed. And when the data or the outcome is multinomial, then multinomial regression analysis can be performed. When the outcome is ordinal, then ordinal regression can be performed. So the regression analysis, type of regression analysis to be used will be determined by the outcome, whether it is continuous, nominal, or ordinal. Further statistical analysis that can be performed is the comparative analysis, to compare groups, to compare responses between different demographic factors, sectioning the data based on the demographic factor, gender, occupation, ethnicity, and so on, and then looking at the differences between those groups relative to the outcome, to determine whether there is a difference between these groups, significant differences between the groups. Comparative analysis can be performed depending on the data type, whether the data are parametric, normally distributed, or non-parametric. If the data are parametric, then t-test can be used for two groups. ANOVA can be used for three groups or more, three categories or more, such as one-way ANOVA. When the data are not normally distributed, then non-parametric test can be performed, such as Mann Whitney U test for two groups, Kruskal Walis test for three groups or more, John Keir's trend test for ordinal data to find the trend, and to determine from those different type of tests, whether parametric or non-parametric, if there is a difference between groups. The next and the most important steps for survey analysis is to determine the statistical significance by two ways. First of all, to determine and calculate the confidence interval, 95% confidence interval for the measurement. The second way is to generate a hypothesis and to do statistical test, and to use the relevant statistical test to determine the statistical differences between variables by calculating the p-values. So the 95% confidence interval and p-value for statistical significance of the differences or relationship or correlation between data. And also an essential test to perform is the Cronbach alpha for testing internal consistency of the items or the questionnaire, and the validity test for the questionnaire or the survey. If you are a student or a researcher and you have a data, whether it is quantitative or qualitative, and you want to perform statistical analysis on that data using any of the softwares listed here, whether it's SPSS, Excel, Stata, Jamovi, R Statistics, GraphPad, Prism, RevMan, GMP, Python, then do contact me to arrange for either a one-to-one private tutor session or a training course on any of these statistical packages. My contact details are given here, so don't hesitate to write to me or email me if you need a private one-to-one tutoring or a training course.